Remember the CHIPS Act? 52 billion plus to counter China and bring chip making home to the US? Yeah. China said thanks for the motivation and built the machine anyways.
The world's most advanced and protected technology was recently reverse engineered by a factory floor laboratory in China.
China just built an EUV machine. ASML's monopoly is over. But this isn't just about semiconductors. This is about who controls the future of technology. This is about a fundamental shift in global power. Let's break down what's happening.
Remember the CHIPS Act? 52 billion plus to counter China and bring chip making home to the US? Yeah. China said thanks for the motivation and built the machine anyways. Now, if you're new to this channel, I go by GigaChin. I lived and worked in China as a venture capitalist, speak Mandarin, and represent the United States in various capacities in China, all while doing business there every year. This channel is where I put you on game and let you know exactly what's happening there and how it impacts your life. Many of you already know about ASML, the Dutch high-tech lithography company that builds the machines that are key to everything. Fewer of you, I bet, know about Lin Nan, the old head of light source technology, who has moved to China and is leading a covert team that's developing China's own EUV machines. To give you an idea of their pace of progress, since moving there in 2019, it's only taken them 18 months to file 8 new patents. But that's nothing compared to this. They bought old parts from ASML themselves, Nikon, and other lithography manufacturers to build their own machine. And they've done it. The only thing they are missing are perfect copies of the Carl Zeiss mirrors, which are the only ones in the world that can be used in a machine of this degree of high technology. So basically, when we celebrate certain legislation in the States, China doesn't see the same wall we're talking about. They see a timer. It's not a barrier. It's a countdown. And the countdown has now been going for some time. They see it ending around 2028, 2030 at the latest. The ASML turncoats now working in China with Huawei and other collaborators took signing bonuses of anywhere from 3 to 5 million RMB. And if you know anything about conversion rates, you'll know that that's basically pennies compared to what these guys could make. What that tells me, they want to do it. And never mind the money they're making or the fake names they're using. What matters is what people are calling China's Manhattan Project has the potential to disrupt the world more than quantum computers breaking the encryption that keeps your Bitcoin safe. And for those of you who think this is sensationalized or even basic information you can get elsewhere, tell me, have you heard of SI Carrier? That's what I thought.
Okay, so let's talk about what ASML actually represents. It's not just a company, it's a choke point. One company controls access to the most advanced technology on the planet. Every AI chip, every advanced processor, every cutting-edge semiconductor, all of it flows through ASML. That's not a business advantage. That's a vulnerability, and China just eliminated it. Here's what happens next. ASML loses its monopoly pricing power. ASML loses its ability to dictate terms to the global market. ASML loses its leverage. But more importantly, the entire Western tech ecosystem loses its leverage. The West has used technology as a weapon. Do what we say or we cut off your chips. That threat is now gone. China will have its own machines. China will produce its own chips. And suddenly, the West doesn't have that choke point anymore. But here's the real implication. NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, they all lose access to the Chinese market. Not because of sanctions, but because China won't need them anymore. That's not a temporary loss. That's permanent. That's a market that's gone forever. This is the end of an era. The era where one Dutch company controlled global technology. That era is over. And with it, the era of Western tech dominance.
The world's most advanced and protected technology was recently reverse engineered by a factory floor laboratory in China with employees that were given fake identities, fake jobs, and entirely kept secret. Why is that? They were to hide from foreign spies. They're building the world's most valuable technology. What technology is worth creating fake identities for? Why has this sparked threats of war? And why does one company in the Netherlands control the entire chip supply for the entire world? There's 3 things you need to understand about what China has just done. There's only one company in the world that creates EUV lithography machines. That's ASML in the Netherlands. Without them, there's no advanced technology, period. But China can't buy one. They're banned, and they're not for sale, and their technology is entirely kept secret. So they built a secret factory floor in Shenzhen, reverse engineered what's available on the market, and built their own today. What was expected to take decades might even have prototypes by 2028. This factory was built in early 2025 and kept secret up until now. But They haven't fully cracked the code. This machine in China creates EUV light. It doesn't actually print a chip. Just for reference, ASML had working light only by 2006. It took them 11 more years. This isn't a victory story. This is the story of how insanely difficult it is to develop technology like this and what it means for the rest of the world in terms of chip supply and who holds the power over those microchips.
This is the key insight. China isn't just building an EUV machine. China is building an entire independent technology ecosystem. By 2028, China will have EUV lithography machines, advanced chip design capabilities, AI chip architecture, semiconductor manufacturing infrastructure, supply chain independence from the West. This is a vertical integration at a national level. And here's what's crucial. China sees Western sanctions not as walls, but as timers. Every export ban, every restriction, every "you can't have this," that's not slowing China down. That's motivating China. That's accelerating the timeline. By 2030, the global semiconductor market will bifurcate. Western chips for Western allies, Chinese chips for everyone else. That's a permanent division of global technology. Countries in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, they won't have to choose between Western tech and Chinese tech anymore. They'll have real options. And they'll choose based on price and performance, not geopolitics. Chinese tech will be cheaper, faster to deploy, and without political strings attached. This is how the West loses the global South. Not through military force, through technology, through choice.
EUV machines sit at the heart of the technological Cold War, and this is what the book Chip Wars is about. They use extreme ultraviolet light to etch circuits thousands of times thinner than a human hair onto silicon wafers, a capability monopolized by the West, by one company, ASML. The smaller the circuits, the more powerful the chips. China's machine is operational and generating extreme ultraviolet light, but has not yet produced working chips, the people said. In April, Christopher Fouquet said China would need many years to develop such a technology, but the existence of this prototype, reported by Reuters for the first time, suggests China may be years closer to achieving semiconductor independence. Do not underestimate China. China still faces major technical challenges, particularly replicating the precision optical systems that Western suppliers produce. So this is what Zeiss create, Z-E-I-S-S. They create these extremely precise optical systems. They worked directly with ASML. ASML brought them in on the project. That is something China apparently does not have yet. The availability of parts from older ASML machines on secondary markets has allowed China to build a domestic prototype with the goal of producing working chips by 2028. So that is now 2 years away. So pretty much 2026, according to these two people. But those close to the project say 2030, still years earlier than analysts believe it would take China. The race is about to hot up and it's going to be close in a couple of years rather than 10 years down the line.
Okay, so ASML CEO said in April that China was many years away. By December, the prototype was done. That's an 8-month gap between many years away and we already built it. But here's what really matters. The timeline, 2028 to 2030. That's not decades away. That's now. That's in the next few years. Think about what that means for the future of technology. For AI development, China won't need to buy NVIDIA chips anymore. China will design and manufacture its own. DeepSeek already proved that Chinese AI can match Western AI. Imagine what happens when Chinese AI companies have unlimited access to cutting-edge chips manufactured in China. AI development will accelerate exponentially. Let's talk about military technology, advanced weapon systems, autonomous vehicles, surveillance technology, quantum computing. All of this depends on cutting-edge semiconductors. China will have sovereign access to this technology. The West won't be able to restrict China's military capabilities through chip embargoes anymore. That's a fundamental shift in military power. And let's not forget consumer markets. Chinese smartphones, laptops, and devices will have access to the latest chip technology without Western restrictions. Chinese startups won't need to negotiate with the West for access to cutting-edge chips. China will have its own ecosystem, completely independent, completely sovereign, completely capable of competing with the West. The race isn't close in 10 years. The race is close in 2 to 3 years, and China is sprinting.
A secret lab in Shenzhen, China, lies a machine that could change the future of AI forever. The US has spent a decade trying to prevent this from happening, and China did it anyway. According to Reuters, China has its own Manhattan Project, but instead of a bomb, they've built a working prototype of an EUV machine. This is literally the holy grail of chip making. It's the only way to make advanced AI chips like the one made by NVIDIA. And until now, only one company in the entire world could make this machine, ASML in the Netherlands. And the US banned ASML from selling it to China. So China has no choice but to come up with something of their own. They secretly recruited former ASML engineers, and under fake identities in a high-security lab, they reverse-engineered the machine, buying pieces in the secondary market. Every expert said that China was 10 years away, but the prototype was completed in early 2025 and right now is undergoing testing. If all goes well, China will start producing its own chips by 2028. But building a machine is only half of the problem. You also need to design the chips, and China got those two. Two companies just IPOs in Shanghai this month. Moore Threads is the NVIDIA of China, and it's founded by a former NVIDIA top executive. Their Musa is the closest rival to NVIDIA's CUDA, and their stock rose by 500% on debut. And MetaX is the AMD of China because it's founded by former AMD executives. By 2028, China could design and make their own chips. And where does that leave the US?
This is the part that shows China isn't just replicating. China is building parallel infrastructure. More Threads IPO'd in Shanghai and the stock market rose 500% on debut. 500%. That's market validation. That's investors betting that China's chip design ecosystem is about to explode. MetaX is the AMD equivalent. Former AMD engineers building Chinese chip architecture. So by 2028, China won't just have manufacturing. China will have complete technological sovereignty. And here's what that means for the future. The future of technology is going to be decided in China, not Silicon Valley. The West has assumed it would always lead in technology. That assumption is now dead. So, here's what you need to understand. China destroying ASML's monopoly isn't just about semiconductors. It's about the future of global technology. It's about who controls AI. It's about who controls the next generation of innovation. By 2028, China will have the machines. By 2030, China will have the chips. By 2035, China will have the market. The West had decades to prepare for this. The West had every advantage, and the West squandered it through sanctions, restrictions, and short-term thinking. China didn't have those advantages, so China built them. If this breakdown was useful, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. What do you think the global tech landscape looks like in 2035? Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.